Hi again, everyone. I'm Jed Williams, Program Director for BIA Kelsey's newest continuous advisory service, Social Local Media. We're back on the blog to address more of your questions from our recent webinar around the launch of SLM. The last time around on this blog, we dealt with the category of content and engagement with content by your audience and your users on social networks and social platforms. Today, the content category or subject is data. We put a lot of data out there on the webinar, and so today we want to analyze the data that we put out there. Why did we put out there what we did? Do we believe it? How do we interpret that data? And most importantly, whatever your role is in the social local media ecosystem, whether you're a small business, an agency, a vendor, a developer, a media company, and on and on and on, what does this data mean in terms of justifying and supporting your opportunity to capitalize on this evolving and growing ecosystem in social local media? Question one, your $6 billion revenue projection globally for social advertising in 2011, what does that include? Let me start by answering what it doesn't include. We're not talking about gaming. We're not talking about social commerce here. We're not dealing with virtual goods. What we're dealing with is pure form advertising. And when you're talking about pure form advertising on most social networks right now in 2011, Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace, etc., you're dealing with display format primarily. Twitter will be interesting to watch over the next couple of years because they're sampling and experimenting with a variety of ad products and platforms. But again, on most of the heavyweight sort of mass appeal social networks, Facebook, etc., you're talking about display advertising, and that's what we're focusing on in our global and domestic ad revenue projections in social local media. Question two, do you think that SMBs are increasingly using social networks instead of operating their own dedicated website? So of course, this is the either or versus both and question. Is social media additive, or is it in some way competitive or cannibalistic? We clearly believe, based on what we saw in the results of our local commerce monitor Wave 14 survey from the end of last year, social media is additive or complementary to permanent online presence. That LCM 14 revealed that 70% of SMBs now have permanent online presence, a website. That number's rising year over year. Nearly half of those that don't want to and plan to over the next 12 months. At the same time, they're also migrating more and more aggressively to social networks, with nearly 50% using Facebook for advertising and or marketing purposes. So it's not either or, it's both and. More SMBs are on websites and on profile pages. They're also migrating socially. So we think there's a complementary relationship moving forward. Finally, question three, do you think the HubSpot data about active blogging and search ranking is leaving out any critical factors? Let's review this quickly. Andrew Schottman, my colleague, mentioned this on the webinar. HubSpot had surveyed its clientele, small businesses, and found that those with active blogs posting at least 5 times a week are 7 times more likely to have higher organic search traffic and also see a 55% lift in overall website traffic. Remember, the clientele working with HubSpot are likely to be early adopters of this sort of technology and understand social platforms, both Web 1.0 and 2.0. So I think that sample is skewed, and it has to be taken into account when you analyze this data. That's not unlike the survey I put out there from social reputation management provider Postlink, which did a survey of its own small business clientele and found that, guess what? The more you post as a local business on your social networks and social pages, the more interaction and engagement you're going to induce from your audience. Again, that's likely to be a tech-savvy clientele or slice of local businesses. And beyond that, you have to ask the question, for each local business, what kind of business are they in? How important is social to them? Who's posting on behalf of that business, and what exactly are they communicating? So keep those all under consideration when talking about these surveys. So that addresses the idea of data. We'll be back on the blog in the coming days to talk about case studies, mobile social implications, and other topics as well.